Are you under the impression that going part time means slashing your income? Well, if that is you, my friend, think again. One of the biggest myths about working part time is that you'll automatically make less simply because you're working fewer shifts, fewer days, or fewer hours. But what if I told you that there were multiple ways to structure your compensation to earn more while working fewer hours in healthcare? This matters because many clinicians assume that part time work equals a significant, profound financial sacrifice. The reality here is that salary isn't the only way to get paid. You can negotiate smartly in order to maximize your income while cutting your hours. Stick with me because today I'm walking through 7 different ways to structure your pay, and some they might surprise you. Plus, I'll tell you how you can get expert help structuring your part time pivot so that you can go from full time, overwhelmed, overworked to part time with some boundaries, with some effective strategies so that you can earn as much as possible while working a lot less than you do now. So, we're going to talk about busting this myth of salary as the only way to get paid in clinical medicine. Now, in my work with negotiation and helping clients to earn more who are practicing as clinicians, this is absolutely positively something that is changing. And we are sort of in this time where people are no longer just assuming salary. We are seeing more people compensated in some of the ways that we're going to unpack. So, salary is limiting in part time work because it's a fixed number with little flexibility. So, employers, when you start talking to them about going part time, they will often assume that part time equals a prorated full time salary. So, you're full time, you make $120,000 a year, you want to go to a zero point 0.5 FTE, that they will just cut you in half to 60. But this overlooks the way that part time earners, especially experienced clinicians, can increase their productivity, increase earnings in a smaller amount of time. So it is not linear, this relationship between hours worked and revenue generated for many people in many different clinical settings. So, what can we do instead of accepting this old, stale model of clinicians being paid on salary only? You can structure your pay creatively. I know, salary feels quote unquote safe. And that's what we have generally in this field of medicine come to expect. If you are willing to be brave and get creative with your compensation, you can earn more when you work harder, when you work more, and you can be more productive at work, all while working less. So here we are, 7 ways to get paid in a part-time role that are not straight salary. Number 1 is hourly pay. So this is something that if you work in the ER, if you work in the ICU, if you work in one of those sort of inpatient acute care settings, you are probably used to. Instead of a fixed salary, you get paid per hour worked. This often includes shift differentials for weekends, nights, swing shifts for people who are switching back and forth. And this allows you to control your income by adjusting your schedule. So, a lot of times in these settings, you can go to a zero point 0.8, you can go to a 0.6 FTE, and then there are almost always available shifts to pick up. So if you negotiate a higher hourly rate, you can compensate for some of the things like reduced benefits that you might have to accept in stepping from a full-time 1.0 FTE to a zero point 0.8 or a zero point 0.6, depending on your organization and how they structure those benefits relative to time. Make sure that you clarify getting paid for hours worked at home. So, this is particularly true if you have a job with an administrative aspect, if you work in the outpatient setting, and oftentimes bring your laptop home to chart at home. If charting at home is something that happens to you or something that you do regularly, if you take call, if you're answering questions, if people are contacting you outside of normal business hours, is there a mechanism, the way that your organization is set up, the way that they track time, the way that they track compensation, for you to track and report those hours of inbox management, charting, or call outside of clinic hours? That's super important because if you are going to be paid hourly, you should be paid for all of the hours that you're working or have some aspect of admin time baked into that hourly amount that you're being called. The second way to get paid that is not salary is to be productivity-based pay. So this is when you're pay based on things like RVUs, your billable hours, or patient contact hours, so the number of hours that you spend facing patients in the clinic, or even a percentage of your collections. So many employers will consider compensating you based on your RVUs, those relative value units, or WRVUs, work relative value units, where you're paid for productivity, the amount that you're billing, the amount that you're generating, not based on your hours. Patients per hour, new consults, where you earn per patient encounter. And so you're incentivized in that way, even if you're with a part time schedule, to squeeze someone in over to lunch, to get that person in same day when they call with a problem. So everyone wins. Patients get care sooner, and you also get paid slightly more for doing more. The opposite is true when you are salaried in a position where you are oftentimes sort of bending the rules or getting people in. The more that you work, and now I hope that this doesn't come off in a way that makes me feel like I want you to be lazy or trying to do the least amount possible. But when you are a salaried employee with poor boundaries who cares about people, which is, by the way, most people who work in clinical medicine, when you say yes to that add-on, when you stay late for that person who missed their appointment and showed up late, when you do more and you're salaried and you create more work for yourself, you get paid less per hour or less per the amount of work that you're doing, because your compensation does not grow when you do more work. Some of these ways, getting paid on productivity, getting paid per hour, means the more you work, the more you earn, which is a complete 180 and leads to just so much less resentment and so much less burnout. So you can get paid on collections, you can get paid on RVUs, number of patients, number of visits. Oftentimes, clinics will do a percentage of collections or a percentage of revenue, where the provider gets a cut of the revenue that you generate. Alternatively, you can earn base salary, so you have something consistently coming in, plus bonus. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So, a negotiation tip, if you're looking to get paid on this revenue-based or productivity-based model, is make sure that you understand what the benchmarks are for full-time providers, and you negotiate a fair scaling for part-time work. So you cannot have full-time benchmarks if you are part-time hourly. If you're going to be paid on productivity, you need to have transparency with the numbers. This means you do not trust them to just tell you how much and then pay you based on that. This means regularly, my preference is monthly, reports of your RVUs, your number of visits, revenue, whatever data you're being paid on, whatever this compensation is being based on, you need to have access to that. If you have access to those reports throughout the month, amazing. But if not, someone needs to run them for you at the end of the month and share them with you. You cannot accept the final answer as your revenue was this. You have to see the data and see where it comes from. If it's not transparent and available to you, it's just so easy to get taken advantage of, or more likely for them to just be generally disorganized and for them to not appropriately track your revenue. Also, it's super helpful to have that information on your last month, on your last 6 months, on the last year, on the last several number of years. That will make you feel so much better about making this switch to productivity base. When you are based in salary and you can see that revenue a long time in the past, you'll be able to calculate what you would have been earning last year, last month, last quarter. And that will just help you to make this switch with some more confidence, knowing what you have generated historically. These data points can help you to calculate what you would have earned, and then you'll feel better about making that switch. It makes it seem like less of this huge leap and more of a small move to go forward. The third way to get paid is base salary and bonus. So instead of just salary, instead of just productivity, this is a combination between base salary and bonus. So instead of just saying, I want to go part time, I want to drop my salary from X to Y, you negotiate a lower base, which sometimes makes it easier for them to agree to this part time switch that you're suggesting. And then there is a performance based incentive. So before you freak out that I'm telling you to decrease your salary, which I am, base plus bonus often results in you getting an increased compensation when the bonus structure is generous. There is definitely a way to make this a win-win where your employer spends less on you, sort of sticks their neck out less in terms of what they're compensating you from salary. But then this bonus structure is that everyone wins. So the more that you work, the more patients that you see, the more hours that you do, the more that your practice makes, but also the more that you make. So there are many, many sort of an unlimited amount of bonus structures, but you can be bonused on quality metrics, patient volume, RVUs, your hours worked, your revenue earned, your collections, the billing you send out to insurance companies, your patient retention or your satisfaction scores. Now, this works for people going part-time because your earnings aren't capped, and you are rewarded for high performance. When you do more, you make more. If you are in a situation where you have an employer that is concerned about what you going part-time is going to cost them, and that you may not cover your compensation or self-fund your position if you go from full-time hours to part-time hours, base plus bonus is often a win-win. This is also a great bridge if you've been historically salaried and you want to end up in that compensation model that is productivity-based. It's sort of a bridge between those two. Go from salary only to salary plus bonus or base plus bonus, and then end up where you want to go in terms of productivity only. As with productivity-based compensation, transparency is key here. And ideally, this bonus should be based on something that you can personally impact. Historically, I had a bonus that was based on our entire group's Press-Ganey scores. It was just frustrating for everyone because some people felt like they were better and some people felt like they weren't. And those Press-Ganey scores were for hospitalizations. It's really hard to tie that back to me, my patient encounters, and my productivity. So I'd rather have something that I can directly impact. So it has to be transparent, has to be reported regularly, has to be something that you can directly impact, and it has to be paid out regularly. So we are not talking about a one-time bonus at the end of the year. We're talking about quarterly or monthly based on what you're earning and what you make above a specific threshold, typically. Number 4, shift differential pay. So this is when you earn extra for nights, weekends, and holidays. This is standard for nursing and has translated to a lot of nurse practitioners being in this situation. PAs sort of missed the boat because we sort of came in with the physician model of compensation from a salary standpoint. So this is where you could get your employer to offer a higher hourly pay for non-traditional hours, although it's technically considered a shift differential. So it's essentially higher hourly pay for the things that no one wants to do. So you could also apply this to in-basket management. So if you have a practice where no one does their in-baskets or everyone does them on off hours and it's just this huge pain point, if you say, hey, I'd like to go part-time and I'd like to do some flexible work from home up to 8 to 16 hours a week, covering in baskets so everyone can dig themselves out of this hole of all of these results. You could do that with a shift differential in terms of hourly compensation. So this works because you can work fewer shifts, but earn the same or more, depending on how much that shift differential is for. As for those dreaded tasks, like let's say this in-basket management, the team is too busy seeing patients, they're generating revenue, these in-baskets are building up, your physicians aren't answering them, they're sort of turfing them to other advanced practice providers in your practice. Can you earn more than your hourly rate seeing patients to clear those in-baskets, to do it sort of on your own time or something that you can do in a flexible, remote nature? So practices are often willing to pay a premium for solving pain points that no one else wants to do. There's this entire very small group of providers that are out there and they're calling themselves inboxologists. And they are reviewing these and they are sending notes and they're communicating with the nursing staff and having those people from the office call these patients back, but they are managing that in basket so the providers can continue to see patients, in the office. Number 5, consulting, per diem positions, or side work opportunities. If you're thinking about cutting back on clinical hours, you're going to want to look for other income streams within your profession. Your income does not need to come from one single source. In fact, having differentiated income streams coming into your household improves stability and makes you less reliant on that primary employer. If you play your cards right and you're strategic and dedicated, your secondary income sources could surpass your primary one. And these are oftentimes things that you can do on your own time, on your own schedule, with your own availability, and sometimes from home. So whether that's per diem shifts where you work occasional high-paying shifts in a place that you used to work or a place where you cover them when someone is out, things like teaching or precepting where schools will pay you to come in and lecture, do a skills lab, to take on students. There are some programs that are paying preceptors for that. And then there's things like chart review or telemedicine, things like medical consulting, writing, podcasting, medical legal consulting. The ideas for generating income outside of clinical practice are seemingly endless. This is a question I field so regularly that I put together a guide of 47 innovative cash generating side gigs for clinicians. Head to tracybingaman.com/gig to download this and see if some of those ideas could help you bridge the gap between full-time work on someone else's schedule to part-time clinical practice where you maintain your financial contributions at home, or even just soften that blow of decreasing the income that you're earning from your primary employer. Now, this works because it diversifies your income. It is also my experience that having more than one way to sort of test your brain and add value to the community and tap into things. I use a totally different skill set when I'm at home writing and recording these podcast episodes than when I do when I'm at the office treating patients. It helps to soften that financial blow and keeps you financially secure during that transition. I'm realizing now that I have 5 ways, not 7 ways. I was more ambitious about the title, 7 ways. So those are 5. I probably could think of 2 more, but we will not belabor this point too much. So here's what I want you to take from this episode. Here's what I want you to take and go do out in the world. You need to know your employer's preferred pay structure, but also what options exist. Yes, many people in this workplace are salaried, but are there some that aren't? And then identify your priorities. What are you mainly trying to accomplish by going part-time and changing your compensation structure? Are you looking for more flexibility? Are you happy to work, but you need some of those hours to be on your own terms or at home? Are you looking for a higher per hour pay just to feel less burned out? You want those bonuses. You really want it to feel like when I work hard, I make more. And right now, when I work hard, I earn less. And then leverage specific negotiating strategies. Do not, I repeat, do not just accept prorated salary as your only option. If you are earning $120,000, let's say, working 60-hour weeks, it's entirely possible to go to 30 hours per week at that clinical position and earn $100,000. Dividing your hours does not necessarily mean dividing your compensation, and this is a big pitfall. When you go part-time, do not devalue yourself as a clinician. You are still incredibly valuable. You still have amazing clinical knowledge, this awesome ability to generate revenue, this awesome ability to take great care of patients. Don't accept less because that part-time switch is so tantalizing, is such an upgrade to your lifestyle. If you want help negotiating your part-time contract, figuring out which one of these compensation strategies would be best for you, given your situation, given your workplace, given your specialty and your setting, let's talk. There is a link in the show notes to book a strategy call with me where we review your situation. We talk about the best time for you to make a part-time pivot. We talk about financials. We talk about the best way for you to get paid, how dependent you are on your income, et cetera, et cetera. You do not have to take a pay cut just because you're working fewer hours. So there's a couple of resources that I put together for you. One is that side gig, which is linked. It's all those opportunities to make more money. Download the 5-step guide to a smooth part-time pivot. You can find that at tracybingaman.com/part-time, or it's linked in the show notes. Book a one-on-one coaching call. You can download all the guides that you want, but there is nothing like someone who has successfully done this and helped dozens of other clinicians walk through this process to go part-time without sacrificing all of their income. We will work on crafting your best compensation strategy, review your financial situation, make sure it's a reasonable time to make this transition, and the structure of your workplace to kind of figure out what they would be most likely to go for in terms of this part-time pivot. And last but not least, I invite you to join us inside of the Pathway to Part-Time group coaching program for hands-on support, community, and connection. We are starting the week of March 24th. Stop dreaming about what your life would look like to work part-time and get your time back and take action. Thank you, as always, for tuning into another episode of The PA is In. That's all for today. This PA is out.